All right, and then as Hi everyone. Thank you for joining us on our panel about virtual reality. My name is Falah and I'll be moderating this talk today. We have quite a diverse group here, so we'll be talking about everything from the different ways to contribute to the industry, to the way it's grown, and where it's going from here. First, I'll start introducing the panelists. First, we have Asema. Uh, She is currently a VR software engineer at DZNE, a research center in Germany, where she leads teams into developing VR simulations and products that focus on problems in neuroscience research. She started her career in the games industry in Pakistan and moved to Germany later on. Welcome, Asima. You're muted.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Falah.
Yeah. Our second panelist is Muhammad Imran Sayed. He founded Nano IT Solutions and VR here 3 years ago, where he combined VR with Nano IT's motion platforms to create arcades, which deliver VR experiences ranging from entertainment to education to tourism. The arcades are currently based in Peshawar and Islamabad. Welcome, Imran.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being here.
And next, we have Mahim Sohail. She is the lead product designer at Facebook and works on combining VR, AR, and AI. She's also worked on social VR products at Oculus and helped launch the Facebook Incubation Lab in Pakistan. Welcome, Mahim.
Assalamualaikum. Hi, everyone.
Yeah. And then lastly, we have Hassan Khan. He is the lead art director at Arthur Technologies and creates the environments and assets for their products. He's also worked on an award-winning VR game before and is currently exploring communication in VR. Welcome, Hassan.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, how's everyone doing?
Awesome.
Yeah.
That
Good.
question was
Yeah, different time zones, everything. It's pretty.
Yeah.
Thank you all for being here. So, just to get started, let's talk about our backgrounds and how everyone got started in VR. So, Asima, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Falah, and I'm really glad to be here today. So I started actually my background from Pakistan. I started my first job actually in Ignitus. That was Islamabad-based studio. We were making educational games for kids, and I worked there for 2.5 years or more before I moved to Germany. So I actually started into the games industry because I was doing computer sciences, and I always wanted to be in games. So I opted for a software engineering role. And that's how I ended up being in the games industry at all. Yeah.
And then how did that lead to VR?
Yes, for the VR. So I, after 2.5 years working in mobile games industry, I wanted a change, and I thought, okay, yeah, let's do something different. So I came to Germany for my second master's, and during that time, I was looking for jobs, and VR was really new in 2015. That is like early 2015. So Oculus DK1 was the first kit that I got to work with. So I started working in this research center, which is called DZNE, German Center for Neurodegenerative Diseases. So we work with Alzheimer and dementia problems in neuroscience, and that's how I actually got my first break into the VR. So it was really niche at that moment. Only research centers were working on it. but it was actually really a good learning process for me because you get to work on so many different things. You have the technology, you also have the research, and I've always been a fan of R&D at the same time.
That sounds really cool. And then Imran, you didn't have a start in games, but you did do games before VR, right?
Yeah, in fact, I was a gamer while I was graduating back in 2005. So I'm a computer science graduate from the development background. My final year project was a 3D engine. That engine was supposed to draw each and every pixel on the screen by going through the mathematical model that we have developed our own selves. We didn't have to rely on OpenGL or DirectX and stuff like that, or other abstraction libraries. So I was a guy that was always working in the hardware-software integration sort of thing, and trying to create solutions for simulators and stuff like that. So after my graduation, I joined Triangle Interactive back in 2005 and worked as a lead software developer when I resigned back in 2009. So I have worked in the Helios, which was the native game, the game engine of Triangle Interactive. I worked in the physics modules. I wrote libraries and modules for the Studio Max and Maya in Visual C to extract the content, the 3D content, animation, texture data, and everything, and import that data into our own proprietary game engine. So I also worked on projects like Nintendo Wii, and worked on the accelerometers and the inertial measurement unit sensors to grab and to extract the patterns and determine that based on AI. So all of my projects were based on the hardware and software integration and the game, the 3D visualization, stuff like that. So we had some sort of issues back in 2009, like Ansawat, and we had those Talibanization and the terrorism issues over here. So I had to join I had to switch my job and joined the job in a Bank of Haber. So I was a software developer. I developed the ATM host libraries and the fintech solutions and stuff like that. But at the same time, I had also had to pursue my passion. That was the stuff that I have told you. So I developed my first motion platform at my home, at my garage, back in 2017. And we unveiled it to the public in a Digital Youth Summit in 2017. And we felt that the addiction level and the people, those were trying to feel its experience, and the robustness and the resilience of the product was such that we decided to launch our arcade. And we also, like, the idea was not just a VR, but immersion. And immersion encapsulates the VR and the hardware and everything, and gives you a full-fledged experience. So we moved into the VR and inaugurated our first franchise model VR here in 2018, and the experience was immense, and the feedback was quite well, and we are still trying to scale up. So we are having 3 arcades right now.
That's really cool. I'm glad you found your way back to your passion. It's really inspiring.
Sorry?
I'm glad you found your way back to your passion.
Sorry, I didn't get that. So
I was just saying your story is really cool. It was really inspiring. Okay, so
Thank you.
yeah, so Maheen, what about you? How do you start?
So for me, I have a background in film architecture and nonprofit. That's kind of where I started. I was doing undergrad in a really random program where they teach you a bit of architecture, a bit of graphic design, a bit of visual design, a bit of game design, and I just learned everything, and coding and everything. And then you're like, okay, well, what do I do with this? And so I started a nonprofit, and then I realized that it's probably better to get some industry experience, because what I really wanted to do was go into the education space and try to figure out what are some ways I can really make a difference there. And so when I got started in the industry, I started in video games, as a lot of people in VR do. I actually worked at, my career really started when I started working at Electronic Arts on a bunch of video games. So I worked on FIFA, both on console and mobile, worked on a bunch of other small mobile games. And then prior to that, I was making documentaries. And then so all of that kind of led me to Facebook, where I started working at Oculus on VR. I started mostly with stuff that I was familiar with, so a lot of interactive media. How can we make 360 photography and videography more democratized, so anyone who has a phone can, create these medias of the future. And then from there went into social VR and other use cases with virtual reality. I started again with like the really early headsets back when like it really was unclear, like how are we going to go from mobile headsets like Gear VR to be democratized all the way to what is today Quest. So I'm really happy with how far we've come as an industry, and I feel like it's just the beginning. So I'm really excited to see where it goes next.
Yeah, it definitely is really, really fast growing. So it's really exciting. And Hassan, what about you? How did you get started? You're also muted right now, so unmute yourself first.
Yes.
Great, yes.
So somebody muted me. We should get that guy. So I started my career with simply 3D modeling, and I'm hearing noise actually. So I started my career with 3D modeling simply, and with no background or anything. I was doing commerce, bachelor's in commerce, and I just left the study. And from there, I joined iTriangle Interactives, where Imran was, but he went, and then I came in. And from there, I learned a few things, and then I joined VR Play, where Mohsen Afzal is actually CEO. And there was like a fantastic whole experience. That's where I was leading many guys for games and Facebook games, but not such super games. And then I joined, and I came to Lahore around or a little less than 5 years ago to join the QBXNet, where we have different startups, in-flight and Megaparty, just like I told you before. So I joined here for VR 3D modeling and environment creation, but I joined in-flight startup, created a few environments there for PBR, shading, and for Rift, actually. And after that, shifted to multiplayer, Oculus, and actually Rift, VR game, casino VR, actually, led by Hamza Siddiqui as CEO, very super genius guy, and worked there for, I think, 4 years or something. And it was a huge experience, amazing learning. And actually, that's where I realized, long time I realized, just when I arrived to Lahore, that the VR is like cutting edge, so whatever I'm doing, there are no tutorials or anything. And lately, around, I think, 5 to 6 months ago, I joined Atha, which is like a Skype VR, and here are, like, the company is set up in Germany, Spain, and America, but the whole team is here, led by Wase and Shoair and myself, and it's amazing, actually.
That's great. And yeah, you talked about how VR's cutting edge. This is really cool because everything in the industry that's happening, we're the ones creating it. We're helping it all. So Maheen talked a little bit about how the industry's changed over the years. She talked about how she got started in 360 videos, and then Asema also talked about how her first headset was like the Oculus DK one, the not as great one. So what does everyone else think? How has the industry changed since you started? What is the most major change?
Is this for me?
Yeah, go ahead.
So industry, has changed. Like overall worldwide, I think everyone is sitting around and waiting for a better headset. To be honest, with 3,000 polygons and 60,000 tries, you can barely create anything. With that being said, the industry is moving more towards the Oculus and less towards Rift. So there are heavy constraints since the platform and the whole basically hardware is very cheap and economical. People can buy it, and I think market base is bigger, I believe, and since I'm in it. So with all of that, we have seen a shift in the market, and the trends have changed. People outside in Europe actually picking it more up, and maybe they will create a trend which Pakistan industry heads might follow. But right now, I don't see that many companies in Pakistan. I mean, obviously, Imran just said he's working on it, but when I say that many, I'm saying the big names are really interested in working in VR since the market share is small and I think is on the up and up, but not really right now.
Yeah, hopefully it'll improve over the years.
Yeah,
And,
sorry for
yeah.
being so mundane. Sorry.
No, it's good to be realistic. It's good to know that what our the industry's weaknesses are and how we can improve them. So Imran, what do you think about the industry over the years?
So just like Hassan told you, like it's evolving. VR is evolving, and VR is evolving in an exponential way. So talking about the marketplace, the awareness, like the phenomena was there right from 90s. Like they were trying to immerse themselves on a TV with stereo graphics, videos and stuff like that. But yeah, stereoscopy, and so it's evolving. It's still evolving. They're trying to improve the headsets by improving the frames per second, trying to remove to minimize the nausea, the motion sickness and stuff like that, and trying to improve the field of vision, trying to decrease its weight, the weight distribution, stuff like that. Like so, it's still in infancy. I would rather state that it's in infancy state. Like talking about the true immersion, it's in. I would rather rate it around 40 to 100, and so we have been using two to three headsets till now. Like Oculus Rift S, we have those in our new arcades in Islamabad. We had the Oculus Rift, the sensor based. So I have always envisioned that there should be inside out tracking, like the computer vision. The initiative that the Google Project Tango that I initiated, talking from a mobile device, having the depth sensors, having the RGB sensors, and talking about the inertial measurement unit sensors, and combining all those together to implement the 6 degree of freedom tracking, rather than putting on the sensors and the lighthouses and stuff like that. So it's still in infancy phase, and there is a big potential. It's not just about entertainment, but also the practical, like from the medicine's point of view, from the simulations, from the training. Like VR is all about the subconscious level training. You don't have to read through the articles, you don't have to go through the videos, but it's the subconscious level training, and it's evolving, and we expect a lot from it. And yeah, that's it. And the point, the issue is about the awareness. The technology is expensive. It's not just about the headset, but even they are implementing, they are revamping the architecture in the GPUs for that, to increase the frames per second, like ASW and the time warps and stuff like that. So we are optimistic, and yeah, there is a lot to come, inshallah.
Yeah, inshallah. Hopefully, with time, the equipment will get cheaper. We'll read more awareness and use it. So it's just a long road, but we'll get there. So that's in Pakistan. Yes, the industry is still in infancy, but outside of Pakistan, in the States and Germany, it is growing at a faster rate. So, Maheen, what's the thing that you're most excited about that you're seeing in the VR space right now?
Yeah, I want to a little bit touch on the previous question, and one thing that I forgot to mention in the first question, which is I currently, I used to be in the VR team, and now I work in a team called AI New Experiences. So what that means is I'm always thinking of how can we build new technologies and products maybe 3 to 5 years out. So when you ask me that question of how has the industry changed, I'm always understanding what happened in the past and looking towards the future and trying to figure out how can we push the industry even more forward so that come 5 years, 10 years, we have addressed all of these problems that we're facing today. So I mentioned democratizing VR being one of them that we worked on 5 years ago, and right now we're working on other problems looking into the future. And so when I think about how far we've come as an industry, they look like small wins. There's this really interesting quote about, you see what happens in 1 year in the world and it doesn't seem like much. But when you look back on what's happened in 10 years, you're amazed because everything has changed. So when the world is changing around us, it's hard for us to know, hey, we went from, oh, the frame rate has increased, or not many people are still using VR. But when you think about how we've moved from headsets that are completely tethered to the desktop that you have, that are extremely expensive, that no one's even heard of the word VR, all of a sudden you're finding that people are buying Oculus Quest during this quarantine period. Probably not in Pakistan, but in the rest of the world where it is accessible. Because people are stuck at home because of COVID, now all of a sudden people are like, oh, have you heard of Oculus Quest? Yeah, let's play some games in there. And yes, it's still low, but the fact that people are starting to identify the word VR and know what it might mean, or that most people have seen 360 videos on Facebook, even if they're in Pakistan, but they don't know what VR is. But even knowing what 360 is a giant step forward into starting to understand what immersiveness means. And so they're already exposed to it. So I think we've come a long, long way. Again, it is just the beginning, but I'm actually super duper excited about that future. And I feel like this year, particularly around the world, I've started to feel that is really the year when consumer-facing VR has taken off. And this is where the headsets will get cheaper. The use cases for experiences will get better because now we have more developers building. And so I think the thing I'm most excited for over the next few years is for the use cases to increase. Right now, VR is mostly focused on gaming. And that's okay because that's where the audience lies for these gaming headsets, which used to be gaming headsets. But the thing I'm most excited for is how can we enable experiences for everybody so that you don't have to be a gamer to pick up that VR headset. And I think until we nail that, we're not going to get more people into VR.
Yeah, you're completely right. And I agree on the, how it's over the last few years, we definitely have seen a shift in consumer. A lot of my friends know what VR is. When a few years ago I would talk about it, they were like, what's that? So it definitely is a huge shift. Asema, what about you? What do you think?
I totally agree with everyone who said everything about hardware that has changed, the technology that has changed, and where exactly we have more consumers in the market. But I also would like to add again the same thing. So when I started with DK1, the technology was not that good, and obviously we were working with in the research center, obviously, so we have to make sure that the immersiveness and everything is so good. So there used to be a lot of problems with the motion sickness, and you are tethered with the PC. You always have a long wire, and we're also working with the Viken tracking system. So we had a 7 meters by 7 meters room where you have to walk around with a long wire around you because we wanted to have more tracking area. But that problems have solved now. So now in HTC Vive, we have 6 by 6 meters tracking area. You can easily walk around in the room. You can use wireless headset, which is amazing as well. So we have come a long way in the hardware. If I just look at 5 years of me working in this domain and using all the different headsets over time. But when it comes to, again, the technology, and we talk about from the GPU perspective, as Imran mentioned, and we also have to talk about from the software perspective, from the UX design, we still have to do a lot to make sure that it is really immersive. So working in the neuroscience domain, because we work with the brain, we know how something that a person sees on the simulation is going to affect them. And when we do the scanning and everything, even if the color coding matters a lot, there are so many details that we don't see from the gaming perspective because we just want to have a really good experience. We want to just put the UX design or UI anywhere in the environment. it would be nice for a gamer because they are so used to this environment, they can just fantasize things. But when you talk about the bigger market, when you talk about, for example, as Maheen said, we have to target more people, like common people who are using VR. So they don't have the experience of playing games, but they can use the VR for some other reason. So you can have gamification, you can have research problems, or you can have education as well. So for those people, we have to also work on the design perspective and making sure the hardware is also really immersive. So using motion controllers, talking about knuckles, all of these things, and even now we have eye tracking. So this all needs to be more in handy. And again, the price, as everyone talked about, the price, it is still very expensive. But nowadays, we're working with eye tracking and HTC Vive. The headset costs 1,600 euros, and the PC costs 4,000 euros to make sure that runs. So if we look at the market, if you want to have more people using your application, and if you're working on the technology like eye tracking, detailed walking around in the room, you need to have a system that can actually support that. And back in the days when actually VR started in 1960s, actually it started from NASA, that was the first application, the hardware and the PC market, or you can say systems, were not ready for it. So that's why it never came to the market. But now we have the hardware for it. It's just the price factor that is not going down, really. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, I agree with you. And in terms of eye tracking stuff, that's also something I'm really, really excited about. Yeah, and then so basically, you talked about your research right now. So let's talk about, because like again, all of us got to start in gaming. We all love gaming, but VR is much more than that. It has the capacity to be much more than that. So can you just elaborate a bit more on your research and just maybe talk about it in terms of the exact differences between it and gaming, and what stuff you had to consider when you started it, and like what the resources were like?
So you mean like how the design is different? Or you mean
was there anything noticeable that you saw? Because I just want to give everyone an idea of the non-gaming industries. So maybe talk about different ways it's used in your industry, or like the stuff that you've really noticed a difference in.
Okay, so first of all, from my knowledge and everything, so VR is not still that much used in gaming as much it is used actually in architecture visualization, medical research, and educational purpose. It is still not that much in gaming if you look at the numbers. So from that perspective, VR has a lot of applications. It actually started from the military. So we can see there is various applications that you can work with. So when we talk about the difference in the technology and the design, so what makes it different for a game, like a desktop game or console game, to the VR is actually the design. So UX design and research, because now we have incorporated the immersion. So when you talk about immersion, your interaction is the first thing that comes to mind. So how the person is going to interact with your system, your hardware. So when you're playing a game on a system, it's like a 2D flat screen. The gamers are already equipped with this thing. They have to use a joystick, or they have to use a keyboard or mouse to roam around. So the passive movement, for example, is there. But when you talk about the VR, you cannot put a headset on a person and give them a passive movement to walk around in the whole arena. People do that. They are doing it a lot in the gaming, but that is not really healthy. That is not something that gives you real immersion, because after some time, people do feel sick, and that's where the design perspective comes in. So I would say 80% of the thing in the gaming, obviously games technology and the VR is obviously the same. It's the design, the 20%, that makes it the huge difference when you talk about the interaction with it. So for example, we in the research center, what we do is we are working on navigation games and simulation. So we have this you can say big immersed environment of 3D, where we want people to roam around. So it's like a random city, you can say, that we want people to explore in VR. And we don't want to make them use the controller and do the passive movement. We want them to actually walk around the city, walk around the streets, and have it more in their memory, because we want to test how exactly a person is actually learning a new environment. Because when you talk about Alzheimer and dementia, these people have problems with navigation from memory. So that's what our applications looks like simulation and games. Again, in the same way, we also have some other things where you can use VR. For example, there are some serious problems in the brain that you can solve using technology, because it is an immersive experience. And what exactly you show on the screen in your simulation and your design perspective really affects the human brain. So we really have to talk about that problem. I would say UX design and research.
Yeah, that's some really good points. And then Hassan, what do you think about this? Because Arthur is working on communication. So how, as you mentioned, you have to be in the product for a long amount of time. How are you dealing with that?
I think I want to say something what Mahin said. There's just a small add-on to what she said. Actually, until and unless big giants of the industry, a gaming industry, since the VR is not so much up and up on from the gaming aspect, developers are creating it, but that doesn't mean the consumer market is actually getting it because nobody's buying Morpheus for PlayStation 4 or anything. The thing is, unless and until Morpheus 2.0 arrives, Sony decided to completely go wild and crazy for VR. The market, the PC or market will not actually follow or actually decide to go in that direction. That is, and I really believe VR gaming is very hard to do or nail, but VR experience uh, that might be possible since you're only standing and feeling the environment. But walking around in VR gives me headache, and I think I spend 2 to 3 hours daily on VR and talking and walking around with people since our application is that whatever that is. But I think big guys needs to step in, and they will not step in since it's everything is an R&D, and it's always going to be this part of the industry where if you have enough $500 or $600 in your pocket, and then you might go. I mean, I'm only talking about the gamers. Then you might go and buy the Morpheus headset or 2.0 of it, but not right now, and that's not going to happen anytime soon, as far as I know. And as far as what you ask about the market of VR other than gaming, so what we are doing right now here with Shoaib, Wase, and Alize, we have created this application where you communicate with other people, but this is strictly Europe-based right now. People are going crazy in Europe, using a lot of, I mean, Volkswagen is completely shifted on it, completely, I don't know, 150 people from there. So people are super excited about it, but I never seen that much of a motivation in any, like 60-year-old or 50-year-old people are super excited, and what we do, we provide them with small tools and everything, and they just create their own ways, own like setups inside the environment. So it is pretty much growing, but only in Europe. In Pakistan, I think it's far away from that level of market integration. But I really believe in I think in December or maybe in March, whenever they decide to launch or even talk about the next headset, is going to even blow up even more and even more faster. So the future is supremely bright for VR because of the lockdown. People get used to it, and also Twitter has announced that you can permanently work from home. We don't care about, and other companies are also, and the commute and the traveling, all of that adds up. People will decide we're gonna stay at home. So the VR will come in, and it's more like I'm gonna be honest here. I was never a VR guy, but I'm actually converted into a fan. Actually, it's so good that you get to meet people that are locked down somewhere else in Lahore and Germany and in Spain and in America, and it's amazing, and the feeling is very good actually. So I'm a huge
Yeah,
supporter.
I'd like to echo that. It's like you try to explain to your friends, hey, like this thing is incredible, and they will never get it until they actually try. Like I was the same way. I like never really understood it, and then you start to get a taste of it, and you're like, whoa, this is gonna change the world.
Yeah.
But people don't get it until they try it.
Yeah, that's definitely because VR, it's for especially for remote collaboration. Given the whole, like, you guys brought up the COVID points, it's like now we're in a situation where we have to recognize it and build upon this. Yeah, and then Maheen, so just why don't you go next and
I
just
think
talk
I
about.
think Hassan wanted to add.
Yeah, actually,
Yeah, sorry.
there's one more point because everyone says everyone shares small check of information, but Asema Hassan said something about better headsets and better hardware that will help us have a higher frame rate. So I was talking to a developer 2 days ago, 3 days ago. I was telling him that no matter how powerful the headset is, people will find that threshold and make sure the frame rate goes down and brag about it and whine about it. It's always going to be, it doesn't matter we are on the 4K or 8K texture, rendering it on PS5 or maybe on our 2080 RTX, people are always going to find that threshold and try to knock that down. So frame rate is always going to drop. So it doesn't matter, but the fidelity we might achieve it. by anti-aliasing, but I don't know when that is going to happen.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to think about all this specific hardware stuff because another like developer might not specifically go in the hardware as much. So just think about how our roles impact that. Yeah. So, Mahin, do you want to go next and talk about the non-gaming industries that you're part of?
Sure. So I'm actually really happy that Asema talked about bringing in UX design and product design and thinking about experiences from a design perspective as well. So as a designer, that's incredibly important to me. And one of the first things that come to mind when you are working in VR is, how can I build for those use cases that are beyond gaming, but also keeping in mind that gaming is the door in. So you have to build an experience that caters to both the gamers as well as non-gamers, so that you can expand the use cases a bit more. And so I've worked on a bunch of use cases outside of gaming, but with the lens of gaming at the end of the day when we launch. I started, as I mentioned, in immersive media, so figuring out how can we enable photographers and videographers to really create 360 videos, but also 180 3D videos, which is a completely new format. I really believe it's the format of the future. Because having that immersiveness beyond just non-stereoscopic 3D stuff it's not enough. And so when you're in a 3D video, it really changes the game and how real it feels. And just that subtle difference, people can't even tell the difference when they're in it, but it makes a huge difference to their experience. So that was one of the first use cases. And when I was building those products, we started on Gear VR, and then moved on to Rift, and now Quest. And we can tell that there's so much of a need for people to create these travel use cases. So in Japan, there were all these videographers really building their business around giving people home tours, giving people tours of different cities, giving them tours of, businesses are setting up, trying to figure out how can they make you understand what kind of furniture to buy. And so that's something that's actually easier for someone who's not familiar with VR to create these films and bring it into VR. So that's one use case around travel. And then we've also seen examples in Pakistan, right? There's, I think it's, which business was it? I think it's Vanilla Arcade that built this sort of travel Pakistan experience from the partition into the Natural History Museum in Lahore. And even that experience of being able to experience, being in a train and experiencing what the partition of India and Pakistan was like, and really putting yourself in those shoes, I think is an incredible, beautiful use case that, is being built in Pakistan. So that's one. And then the other use cases that I've been focused on are around social VR. So a few years ago, we launched Facebook Spaces, which was an experience where you hang out with friends and family in VR. And, you can play games with them, you can chat with them, you can call other relatives that don't have VR. And obviously, because we launched that 4 years ago, it wasn't going to succeed because you don't have friends and family in VR, right? You can buy a headset, but if your use case is to hang out with them and they don't have a headset, how is that going to work? So I don't even know why we did that, but it was a great learning experience for us because we learned about the problems that people face and the things that actually work. And one of the best features that came out of that was in VR, being able to call your friends and family on just the phone message. So I wanted to talk to people from inside VR and connect with people that don't have a VR headset. And that was a really interesting learning, is how can we connect the markets of people in VR, but also people that might not ever have VR in the next 5 to 10 years. How can we create connected experiences across different devices?
Yeah.
So taking those learnings, we built a new experience called Facebook Horizon, which is an alpha. So we we haven't launched it yet, but it's available for test users at the moment. And what Facebook Horizon is focused on is really enabling creators as well as people who want to experience these different creations in one space. It's a space for strangers to connect, become friends, for people who who are creative to build worlds. So it's kind of like think Minecraft, where you can just take a few things and build entire worlds. So people can make those worlds, and then other people can come experience them and create connections. And you can imagine the future being where people are really just expressing themselves in this space, with avatars being really expressive of who they are. It doesn't matter if you're, Pakistani. Like, you can choose to show that you're Pakistani, or you can choose to blend in and take like a more, like, I guess, anonymous approach. And so all of that, it's really interesting where we're headed with that. It's still very sparse. I think the problem with social VR is that until and unless many people have headsets, these experiences feel very empty, kind of like what Hassan mentioned, right? Like, there's not that many people in there. So even with Horizon, it's so early days. And when you go in there, you might only just see like 2 other people. But when we build for spaces, we're building for like hundreds of people. So I think one of the bigger challenges is, how do you start these social experiments where you're building for that future in mindset, where you want women to use it, and you want different all different kinds of people to join it. But how do you start with where we are today, which is gamers, only a few people, and how do you expand it to that future? I think that's been one of the most challenging things, and also there's so many challenges in between. Like, for example, the reason why people might not join today, even if they have the headset, is safety, right? You can't get a female to come into a social VR space. I work in social VR, and I'm afraid of social VR, because when I go into other social VR experiences like Alt Space and Rec Room and all these spaces, I always get harassed, right? And so it's kind of, it's so sad. But unless even people like me don't feel comfortable, how can we enable the future? So I think those are some really interesting things that come out from dealing with these use cases.
Yeah, it's definitely a good use case. Sorry, Hassan, you were saying?
Sorry, I'm cutting you off again. But I just want to be quick what Maheen said. Actually filling the lobbies, like a lot of, I'm gonna use a AAA game example, but not use user's name. But there are a lot of games like Apex that EA is doing right now. When they felt the lobbies are empty, they made it cross-plat actually. So we can actually do that, and we are actually doing that. But I'm not gonna go into the detail. But if you want to join in Facebook Horizon, you can join via headset or cell phone, or maybe simply from the desktop, just fill up the lobbies, and then people might think about joining in from VR if they like the Horizon experience even more. And also, I should have wrote down what I was thinking. I forgot. Sorry.
It's okay, keep come back to it.
Yeah. Okay. So it's great that, because like both you and both Maheen and Hassan are working on social VR, so it's great to hear like both your points of views about it. And then I want to go back to something Maheen mentioned about tourism. So I know Imran has definitely worked on tourism in like experiences as part of his arcades. Imran, do you want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, sure. As Maheen said, there is a lot. It's not just about like the VR. As I don't see it just as a VR, but it's immersion. It's all about immersion, and adding up all those other dimensions to make it so immersive that really counts. And so, talking about our experiences in tourism, so what we have done, so it's just a motion platform, and we have the confidence and experience and skill set to integrate every sort of electronics and hardware and mechanics to build up an immersive platform. Like talking about the car simulator, what we did, we didn't create the content, right? So that's something interesting. So what we did was like there are a lot of simulation softwares over there, like talking about the Project Cars, the Dirt Rally series, the Assetto Corsa. So what these sort of simulations have is that they give you the API or the communication platform that you can extract the physics information and the telemetry information. So we extract those information in real time and map and tune and calibrate that information and map them on our motion platform. So you will be able to feel every surge, every sway, every G-force on the platform that you are going to be like experiencing. So we have created multi-screen based experiences. So the people who are having motion sickness, So we talk about the three screen. So you are having the focal vision. You're talking about the peripheral vision. So everything is over there. And we are talking about like more pixels than 4K. Uh, so talking about the tourism, like it's not just about the gaming. So we have flight simulations, games, rally simulations, and track simulators and stuff like that. So then we realized that the arcade is missing something. So talking about all those age groups, we have got like children up to 5 years of age. We are talking about the teenagers. We are talking about the mature people. So we didn't have those sort of products that an aged group a person will try to try to experience. So they don't have that sort of adrenaline in their blood to experience the gaming and stuff like that. So we digged into the tourism section. So what we did, so we have the all of the electronics and the mechanics stuff. So we initiated from 360 videos, refined and well recorded 360 videos, and like we state that we have mapped those virtual tour guides on our motion platforms. So what the experience is like that sit on our motion rig, so they can experience the stereo breezes, the cold breezes while they are moving in the cable car. So they can experience those haptic feedback, those vibrations while the cable car is moving over those pulleys above you, and they can also experience the 360 content. So a person sitting right beside you will be telling all of the stories of those historic sites that you are going to be experiences. So he will be pointing like that is the Asia's most historic Buddhist spot that you can see. So I can look at it in 360. So we have created those sort of experiences. We have mapped the cable car experiences. We have mapped the snow tubing experiences. We have mapped even the skiing experiences, the first person skiing experiences, and you will feel all the breezes and motion and stuff like that. So we have rated them like around 60 to 65% immersive. So you can immerse yourself while sitting in Karachi, and you can feel the experiences of Malajabba cable cars. So that is what we have done, and we have been doing it for about 2.5 years, and we have got quite extensive feedback, and we are trying to expand it to the next level. So talking about the geosifil muluk, so you'll be sitting in a boat, and a person sitting right beside you will be telling about all the historic sites, and you will be able to feel the water sprinkles on your hand while you're experiencing that boat ride. So this is what we are doing in our arcades, and we have showcased these products and these experiences to the public. So our arcades are like an institution for the graduates, for the students, for the undergraduates, and even for the aged people. Like they can experience the PlayStation VR headset, they can experience the HTC Vive, the Oculus Rift S, and so everything over there. So we have created such a rich experience that we have got all of those varieties. We have got simulators, we have got educational experiences. An engineering background student can come and like assemble an engine, an automobile engine over there. So we have tried to assemble all the entertainment experiences, the educational experiences, and tourism experiences under one roof. So this is what we are trying to do. And again, talking about the immersiveness or the immersion, it's not just about gaming. It's about the like giving the person an experience or a perspective. It's a sort of a delusion that you are really standing or sitting in a teleported area or in a fantasy world or whatever you call it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool to see all the stuff about education and tourism happening in the VR industry in Pakistan. So we only have 10 minutes left. I'm also looking at audience Q&A. So let's just shift gears a little bit to people who specifically want to enter the industry in Pakistan. So quickly, just in like a minute, can you guys name companies in Pakistan that are doing VR, just so our audience knows?
I think right now in Pakistan, people are doing. I have asked around before the session. The only thing I prep before the session, I ask around, and people are doing some work, maybe in Frag and maybe a big immersive. But all of that might be a service work, and they will not be showing it. But because of the NDA, they just do it for somebody else. But as for like to have an intellectual property, a completely IP, that I think nobody's working on it. And if there is, they should pop up and tell everyone. That's why I was thinking about we should have a forum for VR, or at least for gaming. That whatever is happening in Pakistan, it should be there actually. Because if you Google it, nothing comes up actually. Not even my company names comes up there.
That's definitely a good point. Yeah, Asema?
I can go next, yeah.
Yes, yeah, I know a few studios that are actually working on it. So Arthur Technologies, Mega Particle, and we also have Rematch Gaming Studio, which is actually from Karachi, Adam G Group. I think they launched a game last year, Area of Darkness Sentinel. That was on Steam for VR actually. So that was the first game that came out actually from Pakistan, that is solely from Pakistan. And that actually looks quite good. So they're still saying that it's coming soon on the Steam.
No.
But that,
first game on VR was from Mega Particle Casino VR. Yeah.
Yeah, but
yeah,
that was Casino VR.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we have some few studios, and apart from that, as Hassan said, that we have services business going on. So we are doing work for other studios around the world in the VR. But apart from 3-4 studios, we don't have something certainly from Pakistan. Yeah.
Mahin, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I don't know how up to date my information is because this is mostly based on last year. But last year, as Falah mentioned, I worked with Facebook to launch an innovation lab in LUMS in Lahore. And part of that was we wanted to install Oculus Rift in a LUMS department to make sure that students can easily have access to VR and create experiences. It's also open to public outside, so if anyone's interested, I can connect you with some of the people that help run that. But a part of that launch was for us to gather some experts on ground. And so I went on this, I guess, adventure to figure out who are all the people that are working in VR in Pakistan. And I have a list. It's about like 15 studios, but I don't think all of them are active right now, and a lot of them are in this panel. But some of them that come to mind, and I know there's some history where one turned into another a company, and they might be just the same company. So you guys can add some detail to that because I'm not aware. But there's Mega Particle, Big Immersive, Tintash. And then Vanilla Arcade does a lot of like non-VR as well, but also AR stuff. But I think AR VR goes pretty hand in hand, and I think we can learn a lot from either industries in that. And then, as you mentioned, there's like Rematch Studios and Hatch Play. And then I think if you are interested in going into VR or AR, a lot of the existing companies that work in 3D are really good spaces. So I think one of the most strong presence that are both in Pakistan as well as abroad is Quixel. I think they're based in Islamabad as well as internationally, and they have a very huge presence in the gaming industry where they're enabling really the future of extremely immersive, real-looking 3D technologies and visuals. And so I think Quixel is a great place. I know LUMS is doing a lot of work in VR with a lot of experiments in sort of the education space as well as healthcare. And then I'm also aware of some Unity experts, from Unity itself being on ground in Pakistan helping business. And so I think these are all really good places to sort of get started if you're interested.
Yeah, and then Imran, do you have anything to add really quickly? Any names?
Most of the studios, they have mentioned it previously, but a lot of them are trying and experimenting with the headset and the technology and the stuff and the content and the thing that they're going to be perceiving while in headset. So they're experimenting with it, and they're trying to get into the ecosystem, like talking about the games or the Oculus Home or the Steam VR and stuff like that. So, and I'm a bit of we are going development in a bit of a different vertical right now, but so they have mentioned most of the names.
Yeah, it sounds good.
that I
That
know of.
was a really, really good list, everyone. Thank you for putting all those. I know that the audience got a lot from that. Okay, so we have exactly 5 minutes left. Hassan, you want to say something?
Just
Just
one thing. I think Quicksil is not really doing any work on gaming right now. They are actually scanning data and creating a library for. I think they're working with on Unreal with Epic
Yeah.
Store. But right now, I am not sure, and I think they are not working on any games right now. Maybe in the future, but they have not set up a. Or maybe they have, but they
No, no,
need to.
I don't think they're working directly on games, but they're creating the assets that go into games, as well as
More like a library, and you
yeah.
can get the libraries from somewhere else. But
They're basically
yeah,
scanning all of the libraries from all over the world and
Yeah.
making it
yeah.
accessible
I
to
would
everybody.
say VR Play is doing a fantastic work, and they are actually very brave to. I mean, even though they're doing making games for mobile, but again, their IPs are very creative. With Expoten and Dream Chaser and Lost Twins, they have their IPs have this kind of a personality, a character, and I think it's pretty brave. That's all I want to say. That's.
okay. That was great. We have 4 minutes left now. So last question, absolute last one. Very quickly answer, like 30 seconds. What advice or tips would you give to someone who wants to enter the industry right now? Just, Hassan, do you want to say go first? Quickly, 30 seconds.
Don't.
Okay. Anything? Okay. What if they really, really want to do it?
Yeah, then don't. I think the 30 seconds. So the people or the artists actually dream about big things, the PBR shading, or I want to do a Warcraft cinematic and everything. Just skill, just work on your skill. And last thing I want to say actually is your dream job starts from 7 to 12. The whole day is your job, but your dream job starts from 7 to 12. When you come home or when you actually work is done, that's where you work on actually. And yeah, you can get into the VR, but there are not many houses here. But actually, I've been interviewing a lot of people, and I'm going to train them. But then again, your dream job actually starts from 7 to 12. That's all I want to say. And yeah, get into VR, but you need to have enough knowledge.
Definitely. Asema, what is your tips?
Yeah, I would say if you are working in the games already, it will be quite easy for you to shift to the VR, because as I said, 80% technology and development process is the same. It's a deployment that changes and the UX design that is changing. So it will be easier for you. But if you're coming from directly like from a background of as an artist or as an engineer, you can still get into VR. But as Hassan said, you have to make your skills, because being in games industry as a whole is one of the toughest thing to do, and you have to be up to date all the time. So there are tons of tutorials online. If you want, I can send all of that, but you can start from home.
Imran, do you want to go next?
Like VR development is not a rocket science. It's so much easy. If you are in a game industry, you know the concepts of polygons. You're having all the low-level concept. You don't have to be at this abstraction level. So if you are a game developer or an artist or whatsoever, so there are libraries coming on. They are at the very abstraction level. You can develop your VR applications very easily. It's not that difficult. So and try experiencing it. So it's not about the developer, but the experience and like the gameplay and the stuff like that. That is what has to be immersive, and you will have to get into it. If you have a mobile phone, if you can get into the Daydream or the Google Cardboard or whatsoever, but try to experience it and tweak yourself and fantasize it and imagine all the possibilities that you can do. So at the end of the day, it's all about imagination. So what inspires you, that gives you the driving force to get to your destination. So experience it. Try like as Hassan said, try to develop like small applications in it. And it's not difficult. It's very easy. You can all do it. It's even during your graduation.
Okay, and then finally, Mahin, what is your advice?
I agree with everything that's said. I think the only difference I'll add is if you're a student and you're listening to this, then you're very lucky because you're already thinking about VR ahead of anyone. I think the hard thing is when you have a full-time job, you're tired, you come home, and I completely agree. Whatever you do in like your majority of time outside of work is something you're passionate about. And if you make that your dream job, like good for you, that's incredible. But when I started in VR, I started learning on the job. And one great thing that came out of that was that I had all this diverse background experience that enabled me to bring a unique perspective to VR. So don't be afraid of going into VR, but also know that starting out in VR with less skill or knowledge is extremely hard. But if you're in school and you're interested in this space, learn 3D, learn Unity. You don't even need a VR headset. Like, get a Google Cardboard. That's how I started. All you need is Unity and Google Cardboard to like start just playing around with it, and kind of go from there, and see how can you experiment and tinker in that space.
Yeah, the Google Cardboard is definitely an RSA too. It's great. I'm so glad it exists. And with that, we officially are at the end of our panel. Thank you, everyone. Sorry I rushed you at the end there. But yeah, so a lot of the questions we got, you addressed all of them. And some people are asking for contacts. If you would like to reach out to any of the speakers, you can go to the PropTech Summit website, and every speaker has their contact information over there. So that's a perfect way to reach out to them. Other than that, thank you so much for your time. It's really, really cool to see all this Pakistani talent, like both inside and outside of Pakistan, and to see how the industry is growing. It's a lot to go, and it's so exciting, and I'm just really, really glad that we could all talk today. And with that, thank you to Pakistani, thank you to our sponsors. And that's it. Thank you for your time. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. Allah Hafiz. Bye-bye.
Office.